with the big black slanted eyes that are about 4 feet tall. All right, those, let's just call them the Greys because pretty much everyone knows them as Greys. But there's another creature which people and abductees talk about that they see on board the ships, and these are tall beings, and they assume different forms. Sometimes they can appear as reptilian, other times they can appear as insectoid, other times they can appear as Nordic. In other words, in my opinion, they're shapeshifters. Now, why would I say that? What backs it up? There's a scripture, once again, from our spiritual handbook, which says that basically fallen angels can appear as angels of light if they so choose. Okay. They can appear as angels of light if they so choose. That's a shapeshifter, but it shapeshifts. It can appear as whatever it wants to appear. Insectoid, reptilian. Who knows what the thing really looks like? In my opinion, it's probably a reptilian. Apparently, there was some sort of a confrontation. There was some sort of a war between these beings. Sides were drawn up, and we're kind of like we're almost like cannon fodder in a way. It's unseen war, which is happening in another dimension all around us that we don't see. So my point is this: what if the Greys are nothing more than some sort of a biological suit that enables the demons, let's say, to interface in this dimension? That's what I think the Greys are. That's why they're expendable. Me thinking, I wonder if there's some sort of like a biological clone or some sort of a, you know, a body, if you will, that these demons can interface, inhabit, and then, of course, move about in this three-dimensional time-space continuum. When you go back and you read the Book of Enoch, which, by the way, is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it amplifies the mischief that these fallen angels got into in and around the time of Genesis 6, which is why it was a global flood, because the Nephilim were on the earth, and these guys were all over the earth, and some of these skeletons that have been unearthed, specifically in Turkey, were over 30 feet tall. As we pushed west in Ohio and different places, they found mounds, and they would do primitive archaeological digs. And this is documented. I'm not making this stuff up. They found skeletons, oftentimes, that reached over 9 feet in length, with 6 fingers, 6 toes, and red hair.
Now, one of the great mysteries of the West is what happened to these giants. There was nearly 60 skeletons brought out of this cave, but today they're nowhere to be found. Is it that there is some kind of archaeological cover-up that has occurred here?
The main point is that that term is used of angels, fallen angels, and the offspring of those fallen angels with human women has produced a hybrid called a Nephilim. In the Hebrew, the term means the fallen ones. Also, the term is gigantes, which doesn't mean giants, it means earthborn. There was a gene pool problem on the planet Earth.
Is that where the Bible then says that Noah was perfect? He wasn't perfect as
his generations. Verse 9. He was perfect in his generations. The word
DNA.
Perfect is tamim, meaning physical defects.
You know, when you see something like that, it's overwhelming. It will change your worldview. And is that the coming great deception that ancient manuscripts warn us of? Here's a prophecy from 2,000 years ago, that what is coming on the earth will be so bizarre that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible.
An object videotaped by many and seen by thousands over several nights in the Arizona sky in 1997.
Major sighting here.
This is going back a few minutes, Michael. Another question from Uma, and she's wondering, Michael, are those evil, toxic people human? This is obviously in relation to. I think this question is going back at least 10-15 minutes.
Well, the answer is obviously no. They're human, but then what is human, right? Now, of course, she's probably referring to my work on Atlantis, and that means that most of the very elite families have alien blood. That means, yeah, they're human. Of course, they're human. But in ancient times, my work always talks about a genetic interference, and therefore you have an alien strain in people. And there's a bloodline, what's known as a dragon bloodline, that has been highly preserved down through the centuries, regardless of what Burke's Peerage and other heraldry experts are talking about. These royal families are a close-knit group. I mentioned some of the names earlier, like the Carolingians and Merovingians, but there's many, many others. There's even Eastern versions and so on. That's a whole separate study.
So this is kind of sounding kind of similar to what David Icke will be saying as regards to reptilian bloodline.
It's similar to a point. Yeah, me and David are good friends. Totally endorse the vast majority of his work. We see eye to eye on most everything. Of course, as different scholars, we've come at things at slightly different angles, but those are mostly minutiae, insignificant minutiae. He speaks about a reptilian strain. I also do as well. I believe that the reptilians are definitely in existence, and that they have crossbred with humans and all of that. Yep, totally believe in that. It's all in my Atlantis DVD, where I go into great detail there talking about the genetic interference in ancient times from off-world creatures, and their bloodline is in all of us. It's not them against us. We have it too.
Yeah.
That pension, well, it's like I was just saying a few minutes ago, the inner chaos, the inner schizoidness is a genetic one as well. The compulsion that even every one of us has for evil acts or unjust acts or immoral acts is partly because of this, you know, so to speak, a virus in the blood, if you will, that we ourselves are polarized, even on a genetic level.
Can I just mention something on this which I think is very important, and it's an incident that happened. I did receive an email from someone, I won't mention any names, and obviously we have we'll be very interested if we can get David on the show, and David's aware of that, David Icke. And we know David talks about the reptilian thing, and there's so many people actually, you know, going against that. But nobody, with the people who have turned around to me and said, oh, you don't be talking about that, it'll affect the truth movement and everything else, nobody has come to me and showed me evidence that goes against what's being said. David has more information on, you know, the possibility of that being right, and the people who are saying, well, don't go down there, don't go down that road, and when I say, well, show me the evidence that goes against what David said, yeah, they can't show it to me.
That happened in my own private life. When I was researching this, I didn't have to go down that road, but exactly the same thing happened with me. I saw the evidence for it. I had researched it independently and saw nothing but what I would consider strong evidence for it. And so I had no choice but to, you know, include that in my rendering of the story, because I believe it. Absolutely believe it, from absolutely independent ancient sources. The ancient legends talk about it, and I've said umpteen times on my talks and in my books that if the ancient legends say something, I believe it to be true. I take those as facts. I know a lot of people might not want to, but then they haven't researched it like I have. As far as I'm concerned, if something supernatural or bizarre is mentioned in an ancient legend, not one, I'm obviously not stupid, I know if it's only in one culture, well, the hell with that. But listen, when you see the same motif in thousands of different cultures, and hundreds of the most important ones that we still know, the great civilizations, it's good enough for me to go, because I have great admiration for those ancient sages and seers and prophets. I know they weren't dumb people. People can map the sky the way they did. Yeah, I think I might want to learn from them. I'm not going to think that the guy at my high school, my teacher, is up to their level. So, I mean, you know, come on. These people were smart enough to build the greatest citadels, the greatest civilization ever existed. Yeah, I think they're good to go. And if they talk about dragon men and reptilians and the hero going out to slaughter these people and these evil beings out there and these reptilians and these sea dragons and mermaids and you know, all sorts of beasties and stuff, why should we condescendingly, in our modern age, when we're actually going out and genetically cloning and doing things equally as mad, we're on the verge of doing more Frankensteinian things, why should we, with the other side of our mind, negate that when there's so much thousands of years of evidence pointing that this existed. See, so it's logical to me to be open-minded enough to say, until it's disproven, exactly what you're saying, I believe everything until it's disproven, and if you can't disprove it to me, then don't tell me that it's wrong to believe in it.
Exactly. That's my belief. If somebody's going to come up and say you shouldn't be talking about that, I'll go, why? And they'll go, well, and I'll go, well, show me the proof. If you show me the proof that goes against what's been said, then I'll have a look at that, and then I'll make a valid decision. But the problem is,
if somebody made an actual real deep discovery, one of the avenues I just simply couldn't go down myself, it was impossible. But if people want to study the freaks, the phenomenon of freakishness,
yep,
the two-headed babies, the Siamese twins, really get into that,
yeah,
and even start including in that study the study of what they've hidden away in the back wards of some of the oldest madhouses in the world, the things that nobody in this world knows what goes on, and even the doctors will never admit. What lives in those back wards, which ordinary women, people, your neighbors, have given birth to, but then it's shunted away, hidden away in the back wards of madhouses. Study that phenomena and include in that study the study of freaks. And you will not be coming back to tell David and me that you're kooks. You wouldn't do it. And that's evidence. What's that all about? It's not the crap that you've been told, oh, it just happens now and again. There are some of the weirdest things you'd ever want to study. A study has never been done on this worth 2 cents. I've wanted to do it myself, and it's one of the things I've never had real time to do. But to study what exists and lives in those back wards, it would take somebody with a medical background, you see, to even be able to get in there to really bring this teachings to the world. And study along with that the so-called phenomenon of freakism, giantism, dwarfism, Siamese twins, hairy, webbed. People have webbed fingers, webbed feet. The whole, we know about it, the whole smorgasbord of that kind of study needs to really be taken on board and studied, but in line with what we're talking about the alternative ways of what exists on this planet that has been carefully hidden away. That would open lots of eyes.
I think there's a lot of stuff out there that we're not aware of and we don't know about. And you know as well as I do, as well as Steve does, that we are conditioned to believe throughout our life certain things because that's the way society is. And then when somebody challenges your belief system, your ego kicks in and stops us from actually thinking outside the box and going, hey, what's the possibility of that happening? They're so conditioned in their life and in their belief system that they'll just totally go against you and say, no, that's not possible. And you say, well, prove to me that it's not possible. And they can't do it. It's just a conditioning. They've been so conditioned.
Do you meditate, and when can we see you in Dublin?
Well, that's private. I always make a point, it's not just on your show, but in general, I've always made the point that I don't speak about my personal life. I try to have people make the focus on my public work. Who I am and what I do, it should be absolutely not important to anyone. It should be what I'm doing. Who I'm hanging out with, who I know, what I do in my life, what kind of food I eat is irrelevant. It's the focus now, and believe me, if people were really passionate, they wouldn't need to be told this. Right now, we're in a very, very dark place in the world. And not just with me, but with all of these people. You see so much of this banter back and forth on various forums and chat rooms and YouTube about all these people's personal lives, Alex and me and whoever else. But the point is, I take offense against that, not because it's an invasion in my personal private space, but secondly, what are you thinking? What has that person got time to wonder about, that I'm wearing a leather jacket, or, who I might be hanging out with, or, whatever it might be, or I'm smoking a cigarette. Is that where your concern is? When I am sitting there, going to my wit's end to put out information that is absolutely radical in this world. See, it tells me where that person's focus is, that they get time to chew bubblegum over that, but they're not even making a single comment or interest in the actual work, the deep meat of the material of what we're talking about. And that, I don't have time for people like that. But even more than that, it's just I don't think my life is very interesting to people, so I don't go into it. What I would say is that I do believe that people should study meditation, study what system works for them, really research these subjects, they're very interesting, and then come to their own conclusions about what works for them. Absolutely. I think they should be absolutely studying all of these different things with an open mind to find out what works for them, But see, here's another reason. If I say, yes, I do, then people gormlessly go, well, if he does it, I'm going to try it. See, so now I'm a dictator. Now I'm an authority that just because Michael meditates or Michael's into Buddhism, Michael's into this, they rush off and, this is the way the world is. I'm sorry, it happens. And if I say, no, I'm not into that, then they drop it, when in fact it might be a very good thing for them. Everybody's waiting for Big Daddy, the authority figure, to say, here's what I do in my life. Our world is full of this nonsense. And then we want to do the same thing.
The sheep mentality at work again.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not into that at all, you know. I'm not into that at all. It's really something I personally despise in life when I see it myself. Not to mention, that's not to say I don't have my heroes, I do. But when it becomes very overt, where people are literally copying, you know, this is the whole Oprah Winfrey scenario we're into. You know, I'm not into that. I'm into making people free in their minds to be able to go and say, who am I?
Okay, Michael, because we like to run a balanced show, we don't want to dictate to people. Another comment has come in, which I'm going to just read it out anyway, and you can comment on it. But it just says, "Come on, lads, these guys, Icke, Maxwell, Tsarion, are all NWO agents. How come all videos exposing them are being removed from the net?" And then there's another question following that. Are you referring to Chris White? And so they say yes, and Chris White is a religious zealot. So I don't know if you have any comments on that one.
He's coming on the show, by the way, Chris White.
Okay.
Just in case, if you look at the radio schedule, you'll actually see Chris White is coming on the show.
Okie dokie.
Right. Okay. That's down the line. I say Michael probably has heard of Chris White anyway.
Well, I have, of course, and I know that he's one of many people. When John Coleman, one of the greatest conspiracy authors, was ever asked, who has he, because remember he was ex-MI5, he's a person who came up against very, very senior opposition, extremely high level, higher level than you can imagine. But when he was asked about who his real opponents were, he mentioned only two groups: Christian right-wing fanatics like Chris White, not Chris White specifically in Coleman's case, but that kind of creature, and the homosexual group.
Wow.
Elite homosexual, you know, groups who are this cabal that run the rock and run the rap. And again, if people aren't familiar with all of this, of how powerful the homosexual networks are in the world, along with this extreme right-wing Christian fundamental group, these people are the ones who will attack and fight us. So they're either used by the Illuminati themselves or other more sinister groups to come after and try to debunk and try to, you know, misconstrue, mostly importantly. And then I'm not against it, because I say, look, everyone should have the freedom to say what they want. So it's where I draw the line is that they, of course, always try to get into your personal life and make personal, you know, comments and stabs in the dark. And if they can't throw stones, you know, they'll throw sand in your eyes. These, again, are that group that I told you about earlier that stand in the way of true revelation. And because what they don't mess with me. I don't mind what they do. They have no effect on me. But what they do have an effect on is those good people who might be trying to come to my work or trying to understand what is going on, and then they get all lost in this confusion, you see. So it doesn't affect me directly, but it affects good people. It makes their job a lot harder. But again, you know, this is what you have to deal with. If I was to compare the rubbish that they think they're doing towards me than what I've had in my personal life, it doesn't even show up, so they might as well waste their time. The opposition I've had from other sources far exceeds what they think they're ever doing to me, and in fact they actually assist me in many ways. They look like chumps and I look fantastic. You know, the more rubbish they throw at me, the better I look, so keep it coming.
So obviously you're following your path, and these people who step on your way, I mean, at the end of the day, they're only going to end up looking like fools. But
well, it's more than that, obviously. When they accuse you of being a Mason or a Rosicrucian or a Templar, or what was they were saying, I work for the New World Order. I mean, I don't even really actually know even what that means. What is a New World Order agent exactly? You know, so, I mean, and the illogicism of it should be obviously, I shouldn't even have to even comment on it, because the illogicism of it should be obvious to anyone with a logical mind. And Chris White doesn't have a logical mind, so that's why he spews out this rubbish, and everybody listens to him. You know, they buy into it because they're equally paranoid, fanatical, and basically spiritually lost. And all these people are internet lice. They're internet parasites who have nothing better to do but ride on the coattails of people who are trying to get the truth out to people. But I will go more than that. I'm telling you directly that these people, as John Coleman has confirmed, work for or are in league with very powerful organizations who don't want to come after you directly because they expose themselves. So they send these homosexual groups, powerful homosexual groups, and this Christian fundamental right wing. If you track back to any of the great minds who've spoken on these subjects, you will find that is exactly the same coterie who try to take them out, or who try to, you know, who try to stir up a lot of controversy. It's the same pattern, the same groups who are used in order to come in and try and misconstrue what you're talking about. It's not that my work is perfect and it doesn't have small errors here and there, but so does any science book. Every book, even technical book in a manual in a school, is having errata. You fix it, you change it. I collaborate a lot. So I get information from a lot of other people that updates my information, or a person may correct something I've done. This is an ongoing process, a partly collaborative process. We're all looking for the truth. I've never set myself up as a master or an expert in anything. We're all discovering a very incredible thing together, you know, and we will make mistakes, and we will break fingernails, and we will, you know, bite down on things that are not right. But who are these other so-called nobodies with no books, no DVDs, no clout, coming in as if they're critics, and all they are is low-class cynics? They don't even have any substantial knowledge about anything, not even the stuff that they're meant to be teaching themselves, and come in and dare to be commenting on my work. Who the hell are they? You know, I never set myself up as any expert. I'm working with what I've got, the means what I've got, to create as much as I can, and if it turns people on, it's fine. And if it doesn't, you change the channel. Go on and study somebody else that you like better. So when you see this overt action, though, an overt action to try and scandalize and plagiarize and just completely boulderize good people trying to do great work, you know that that is not them just getting up of a day and thinking, you know, that's what I want to do. And when you map it out over the years, you find out that it's the same coterie, a very sinister coterie, doing this to try and take people like me out. Well, they're not going to succeed. But again, I don't necessarily go out to promote myself. You know, it's connected. Again, it undercuts what a lot of these other critics, so-called critics of mine, you know, would say about me. Is I've never advertised myself. Every interview, people have come to me. Everybody who buys my book, they come and find me somewhere. If I'm known, it's only because of other people spreading the word. I've never gone out there to heavily advertise myself. I don't have my own radio show or media network or anything like that. You know, I'm invited to places. From day one, it was like that. So I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I'm not spreading any news. People come to me and take my knowledge, and then they go spread it. So how do my critics say he's out there spreading this Luciferian whatever? I'm not spreading anything. I didn't even know that a single copy of any of my books or DVDs would sell. If they did, well, that's not out of my control, and it's a good thing. Should I be, you know, should I be ashamed about that? Absolutely not. If I'm admired by people who love my work and it's shining light on the meaning of their lives, who the hell is somebody else to come along and debunk that and say that that's a bad thing? You know, it's ridiculous. I'm not out there doing anything. And I can tell you again, as I've told many people, I belong to no associations. I belong to no cults. I despise all secret societies. My whole life has been dedicated to exposing secret societies. So like you said earlier on about the logic of debunking the reptilians, show me the evidence. Doesn't the same formula apply? If you're going to say that Michael Tsarion is a spreader of such and such and such and he's working for the system, please show me your evidence. And when I say evidence, I don't mean wild ad hominem attacks on my person, or just because I happen to live within 3 miles of the Rosicrucian Center in San Jose, I must be a Rosicrucian, along with the other 500,000 people who also live within 2 miles of that location, and this is what we're talking about. So, you know, that doesn't add up to any logical person. Show me the evidence. They can't show the evidence. Just because my mother knew some people in the so-called New Age movement, that makes me a New Age guru, and so on 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 and so on.
It goes on, doesn't it? People make up their own kind of, they read into things, don't they, and just make up their own mind, and then Chinese whispers, and before you know it, there's a rumour going around which is completely false. So again, right. show us the evidence. That's my motto. Well,
what it does is it's going to separate the sheep from the goats, because what will happen then is, again, I say let them have the freedom to say what they want, but then what happens is the person who believes it and sucks it all in, I prefer that they have nothing to do with my work. I'm not interested in changing their ways. If they want to remain Christian, let them remain Christian. I'm not after them. I am a scholar who points out inconsistencies in the Bible and in all religions, and show the background. If you're into it, you're into it. But I'm not against a person believing in Jesus. I'm not in any way telling person, nor have I ever said,
okay,
that somebody should not believe in Muhammad, or somebody should not personally believe in the Christ. I've never ever said that. But what I have always targeted is the institutions of religion that I believe are part of this, you know, matrix of mind control. That's all I've said. Instead of joining hands and saying, you know, Michael, great work, you're right, and you certainly haven't got in my personal faith. You're not in the way of my personal faith. In fact, you've even endorsed that on so many times. You've said that you're not interfering with the private beliefs of private people. I've said that from the stage. I've said it on interviews, and said it all over the place. You know, instead of admiring a person for being like that, they're going to try and tear you down. Well, that shows who they are.
That's the again the sheep mentality, the conformist attitude.
And I just hope you didn't get taken on this one, and I hope that you're just not.
Look, mate, you believe what you want to believe, right? End of story. Other people listening to this program will have another take on what to believe, and they should be respected on that. I'm putting out information. People make of it what they will. If you want to believe I'm making it up, then please feel free. I don't give a damn, frankly, because how people receive my information is none of my business. So, you know, where do you want to go with this?
Well, I almost wonder if you've done damage to the...
Oh, here we go. Well, you see, there are certain things that other researchers put out, which other people in society who come from a different belief system say, oh, that's ridiculous. How can he say that? That's far too extreme. And they could be accused of the same thing. Well, I think you've done damage to the cause. I tell you what does damage to the cause. It's holding back on what you believe to be right, because A, you fear what other people think of what you'll say, and also those that will not go into certain places because their preconceived belief will be under threat if they go into those areas of information. Therefore, they simply don't go there to protect the belief system. You know, we can all say that different people in different areas of this whole conspiracy research movement are doing damage to the cause. No one's doing damage to the cause if they're putting out what they believe to be right and the information that goes with it. We need to start being much more comfortable within this conspiracy research movement with other people having another spin on what's going on. And we need to start uniting on what we agree on instead of becoming disunited by condemning people who have a different spin than us on other things. You know,
I can buy, the Illuminati are a bunch of Satanists that they, at certain levels, rape and murder little children. They get some sort of joy out of this. They do these weird human sacrifice rituals. They do the blood drinking. I can understand all that, but this whole thing about them being shape-shifting reptilians, there's no photographs, there's no nothing. You have a couple eyewitnesses of people. I've been around people who've been on LSD before, and they've seen people turn into clowns. Say that again?
Show me a photograph of Lucifer.
That's pretty slick, man. But we can deductively...
It's a question that comes out of what you're saying. Show me a picture of Lucifer. Hey, he's talking about Lucifer. He's got no pictures. I mean, you can take this man seriously. So, this is just daft. But then again, you have the right to be daft, mate.
Okay.